Hi, everyone. So we just wrapped up our 2022 kindergarten and pre-K kindergarten teacher workshop. And I know a few people weren't able to make it, so I just wanted to do a quick video kind of going over what we talked about in case you have any questions about the resources that you got or what was said in the workshop. So this is just going to be kind of a quick overview of kind of what we looked at today. So my name is Christina Bombach. I'm the education coordinator here at the DuPage County Farm Bureau. I grew up on a farm where my family raises corn, soybeans, wheat, beef cows, and pigs. So I am the education coordinator here at the DuPage County Farm Bureau, and I run our Ag in the Classroom program where we go into classrooms and do lessons about agriculture with students. So today we're just focusing on three topics. We're going to talk about some general agriculture statistics, pizza, and pigs are our three topics for today. So starting off with what is agriculture? Most students think of agriculture as just farming. So agriculture is the science of growing crops and raising animals to produce the food, fiber, and fuel that we need for how we live. But it also includes a lot of other things besides just farming. So like land and water conservation, processing, marketing, distribution, transportation, food science, basically all the things that we need in our food supply chain to get that food from the farm to the table. Now, this is just a quick video that I really like to show that kind of explains the importance of farming. For this video, since we're going to keep it short, I'm not going to play it. I'll put it in a link for you guys, but I really like it, and I think you should, if you have time, to go ahead and take the time to watch it. So here in DuPage County, we have around 925 residents. So we're a very urban area. Only about 0.5% of people actually live in a rural area here. So our students are pretty far disconnected from the farm. I think it's 3 or 4 generations at this point. So we really want to make sure that our students kind of understand what farm life is like and how food doesn't come from the grocery store. It comes from a farm, or the things that we use are natural resource. So in our county, we have 77 farms. Most of these are small farms, like an acre or so. We're mostly things that are like horticulture and floriculture, things that are grown in greenhouses, stuff like that. And then 75% of Illinois is farm ground. So if you drive out of our area, you'll see lots and lots of different fields and agriculture kind of happening throughout our state. In fact, 1 in 5 jobs in Illinois is related to agriculture. So this is not just farming. This is all those other things we said, like food processing and distribution and transportation and all of those things. We actually have the second large food processing hub here in the Chicagoland area. The first one is out in California, where they have a lot of processing of all those fresh fruits and vegetables. But if you drive around the Chicagoland area, you'll see a lot of food processors and manufacturers and things like that. So then looking at our U.S. ag, less than 2% of the population are farmers and ranchers. So we rely on a really small percentage of people to provide the food and fiber that we need. 98% of those farms are family owned and operated. And farmers and ranchers only receive about 8 cents of every food dollar spent. So not very much by the time you go through that whole supply chain. Some cool statistics, we have seen a 34% decrease in cropland erosion since 1982. So pretty significant decrease because farmers are really focused on sustainability and keeping our natural resources good for future generations. We've also seen a 360% increase in U.S. field corn production. So in the way that we are growing these seeds, maybe doing bioengineering to increase the yield. So we're growing more food on less acreage, which is awesome. Our top products here in the US are cattle, corn, and soybeans, and then some not so cool statistics. So Americans throw away about 25% of the food that we purchase for home. And I know that I'm guilty of this when I get to the end of the week and see a piece of fruit that I bought and I never ate it. So we're kind of bad about buying things and not using them. And about 40% of the food grown in the US is never eaten. So think of all the things that you buy that you don't eat, all those things at the grocery store that they have that are past their expiration date, or like their fruits and vegetables like a squishy and they can't sell, plus things that maybe grow and don't look nice so they don't even make it to the store. So we actually throw a lot of food away here in the US. So one of our initiatives is how do we get that food to people, and how do we cut down on the waste? So some things to think about. All of these statistics are from the American Farm Bureau Federation. So this is just kind of a map showing what we are growing where. So you can see the yellow is like pasture and rangeland. A lot of our western states, maybe the soil isn't great for growing crops, or it's mountainous or hilly, but it's good for grazing livestock. You can see here in the Midwest, we are brown, so we have a lot of cropland. We have really nice fertile soil, and we have nice flat land. So we grow a lot of crops here in the US, or in the Midwest. And then our green part over here, this is forestry land, where they're growing trees for us to use. So those are the main things. Then we've got some special use in miscellaneous areas like forest preserves and national parks, golf courses, railroads, things like that. And then pink is the urban city. So this is just kind of a map to show you kind of where we're growing some different things. So our first activity is the Farm Web. The book that you got is How Did That Get in My Lunchbox? So it's kind of a cute book that just goes through some different items that a kid has in a lunchbox and how it got there. So it's showing how the wheat was grown and harvested to make the bread, and where the apple came from, and where the milk came from. So this is a fun one to do. We like to start off this activity with kind of going around and asking the kids, what did they use today? For our older students, we'll have them make a list. For our younger pre-K kindergarten students, you might want to make a list on your whiteboard. So we just ask kind of what they use, and then where do those things come from? Because a lot of them probably will say it came from the grocery store. So we want to make sure that they understand that the things they use are either a natural resource coming from the earth, or they were raised on a farm. So that goes to our Farm Web activity. So this is a good one for getting up and standing and moving around. So you in your boxes received these little circles. They're all laminated, so you can use them over and over. So you'll start with the barn. You'll place it in the middle, and you need about 10 feet of space to do this. So you start with the barn, and then you go around and ask, who has something that was grown on the farm? So this will be your things like your livestock and your crops. And so we do this one at a time. We'll have the students raise their hands, and if they're right, we'll give them a piece of string and have them connect it to the barn. And then you do the next layer out, the things that come from those crops. So you just kind of make your circle out and go through it one at a time. And if they're right, you let them put it down. You may have to answer some questions about what's happening. But this is a fun one to get students a visual to see where the items that they use every day, where they come from, and what plants and animals they're made from. So this is the Farm Web. Then we have a cute, how did that get in my lunchbox lunch bag extension activity. This is a lunch bag scrapbook that I have made here. So it's just two paper bags that have been cut to make them a little bit shorter, and then we've glued the bottom pieces together, hole punched them, and then tied them together. So I have the instructions for this in your packet. I didn't give you the materials for this. This is just a bonus. So what you have your kids do is you can either make these ahead of time or have them make it. It might be a little hard with the hole punchies, but then they can save their labels from things that they ate. So you can see my example here. I'm a terrible artist, but you can see I saved a yogurt wrapper, and I drew a dairy cow, and then I saved a sticker that came from an apple, and I drew an apple tree. So this is just kind of a fun way for students to be able to review where their items came from, and make a little scrapbook to take home. So our next topic was pizza. Our book for this was Little Red Hen Makes a Pizza. So this one, the Little Red Hen goes to the store to buy a lot of her ingredients. It's not showing where those ingredients come from. So this is kind of where our lesson comes in. So I like to start off with a poll and just see which students like which toppings. So our main ones are cheese, and then our meats, veggies, and then our fruit with our pineapple. So most of our students know that wheat makes flour. So wheat makes flour. Flour is used to make the pizza dough or the crust. I like to start at the bottom of the pizza and work our way up. So in Illinois, we plant soft red winter wheat. This is the type that we grow here. It's actually planted in the fall. We use a tractor and a drill. Wheat is really cool because it's a cover crop. So it gets planted in the fall after our corn or soybeans have been harvested. It'll put down its roots and then it'll go dormant for the winter. So the roots are going to help hold the soil in place during the winter so it doesn't erode. And then in the springtime, it's going to start growing again. This type of wheat is used to make the flour that's used in like cookies and cakes and pretzels and that kind of baking. So this is our wheat planting. Once it becomes warm again, it's going to start growing. It'll put out its tillers or its stems, and then it's going to grow the head at the top, and the head is full of the kernels, which is the part that we harvest and use to make flour. So sometimes we'll do an activity where we will kind of thresh our wheat and get some of those wheat stalks from Hobby Lobby and kind of rub them together and let the kernels fall out so our students can kind of see where they're coming from. In your bags, we've given you a stalk of wheat to use as a prop. So this is a little bit about wheat. For harvesting wheat, we use a machine called a combine. It's combining different actions of reaping, threshing, and winnowing. So cutting, separating those kernels, and then cleaning them. So I'll just show you this quick little video of our combine in action. You can see it's spewing out all of the stalks and the chaff out the back that it's not using. So that's all of the waste from the plant that it's not keeping. We're only keeping those kernels. Once the combine's full, we're going to unload it into a semi-truck. And then our semi-truck is going to get unloaded. And we're going to use that big tower that's called an auger. It's going to pull that grain up and dump it into those bins where we're going to store it until it's ready to be taken to the flour mill. So a byproduct of wheat is straw, which is pretty awesome because you're kind of getting two products in one. This video is from my family's farm. So we use a bale accumulator to put the bales together. We've got a baler, and then it goes into the accumulator where it puts it into groupings, and then we'll come back with a tractor and pick it up and load it. You'll also see in the video my aunt and uncle who are going to be baling by hand. It takes a lot more manpower when you do it that way. This first way is how we do it when you have less people to help. Right, so then we just unload it in the barn and then we'll sell it to the Ace Hardwares in the area for them to sell to the public. So then we move on to our sauce. We usually spend most of our time, we talk a lot about wheat and a lot about dairy when we do the pizza lesson, because most kids have seen tomatoes and peppers and those kinds of things. So for our pizza sauce, we usually talk about how tomatoes are botanically considered a fruit because they're coming from that fertilized ovary of a flower, and how the sauce is made up of different ingredients because it's not just tomatoes, right? We've got garlic and then our leafy greens like basil and parsley and oregano, and how it's kind of all made up like that. So the tomatoes that we have at the store, those are hand picked so they don't get bruised. But the tomatoes that are used for processing are actually picked by machine. So I have a video here so you guys can kind of see the machine that's used because it's really pretty cool and we don't see this around here in Illinois. Great, so pretty cool of how those are picked. Ooh, here we go. There we go. Okay, so next we come up to cheese. So cheese is made from milk, which is coming from our dairy cows. Now there are different dairy breeds. So our students are most familiar with the black and white Holstein cows. A lot of farmers choose to raise this type of cow because they produce a lot of milk. But there are other types of cows like Jerseys and Milking Shorthorns and Ayrshires that are also raised to produce milk as well. So we always want to make sure our students realize that brown cows do not make chocolate milk because a lot of students really think that. So these are some of our top dairy breeds. Now we raise our dairy cows here in Illinois in barns for things like protection from weather and predators, keeping them a consistent temperature so they don't overheat or get too cold, so that they have access to food and water so that they're easy to care for and manage, and that they have access to be able to be milked. So this photo is from our friends at Lincatus Holsteins, a local dairy farm not too far from our office. They have a freestall barn, so you can see the cows are free to roam around. They have sand to lay on in their stalls. They have access to their food over here. Our dairy cows are eating hay and silage, some greens, things like that. So you can also see that they have tracking collars and ear tags so that they're able to be tracked and taken care of, and so the farmer knows which cows which. You can see the fans along the top and the side to help keep them cool so they don't get overheated. In this barn, actually the sides of it will raise up, so in the summer months it's kind of like an open pavilion almost, so the cows have fresh air coming through. So our dairy cows weigh around 1,500 pounds. They usually eat about 100 pounds of food and drink a bathtub's worth of water, which is 30 to 50 gallons. On average, cows will milk 2 to 3 times a day. On this farm at Lincatus Holsteins, they have an automatic milking machine, which means the cow can go in and get milked anytime she wants, and the farmer doesn't have to be present, which is pretty cool. It's all robotic. So I'll show you this video so you can see how the cow is milked. All right, and the cow gets milked, all of it gets tracked. It only takes about 5 minutes to milk a cow using a milking machine, which is pretty fast. And then that milk is going to get transported into a refrigerated area and then picked up by a milk truck later. So pretty cool that it's all robotic here. So next up, we have pepperoni. Pepperoni is a meat that comes from pigs. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because our next section is all about pigs. Usually when we do our section on this with our students during our pizza lesson, we usually just touch on that meat comes from animals, livestock, and livestock are different than pets. Pets we've kind of humanized and we've domesticated them. They're in our homes. They're almost like a member of the family, whereas livestock are animals that are being raised for a purpose to provide us with a needed material. So we want to make that distinction that these aren't pets. They're not being raised as pets. These pigs are providing food for us. So kind of the life cycle, usually pigs are born, they're 2 to 3 pounds. They're going to be weaned or stop drinking milk when they're 12 to 15 pounds. And then they're going to be raised until they're around 280 pounds, so pretty big. And that's when they're going to be shipped off to market and processed into all the things that we like to eat. Green peppers, some of the things we talk about with green peppers, your students have probably seen them or maybe grown them. So kind of like tomatoes, botanically, they're considered a fruit. Nutritionally, they're considered a vegetable. We don't grow them commercially here in Illinois. We mostly grow them out in California, where the climate is better for them. Kind of a fun fact about our green peppers is if you leave them on the vine, they will turn red and they're going to get heavier and bigger and sweeter. So kind of a fun thing there. For mushrooms. So mushrooms aren't a fruit or vegetable, they're fungus. So mushrooms don't need light to grow. They're grown in big warehouse areas. The farmers will get in spores that they'll mix in with compost and let them grow. These mushrooms will double in size every day. They'll get picked every 16 to 35 days, which is pretty cool. So I have a video. I like this time-lapse video. This is 6 days of watching mushrooms grow. So you can see how fast they grow. All right, so it's a pretty quick process you can see there. Usually the farmers can get a few harvests off of the same spores, but then they'll need to get new compost and new spores and replant them. And then we have our pineapple. So we grow pineapple here in the United States in like Hawaii, California, and Florida, but we don't grow a lot of them. Most of the pineapple that we get in the store is coming from Central America. You can see these plants, the plants only grow 1 pineapple per plant, and it takes 6 months to grow that pineapple. So it's kind of a long process. You can see the leaves on this pineapple are super spiky. So when they're harvested, the farm workers have to wear big protective clothing and gloves to be able to harvest that pineapple out of there. So this was kind of our pizza lesson. Like I said, we spend most of our time on the wheat and the dairy aspect of it, and then just touch on those other things. So the activity that I've provided for you is our pizza bracelet. It's pretty self-explanatory. It came with this little sheet. So each one of these beads and the pipe cleaner represents a different topic that we just talked about. And what I like to do when I do this with our students, I use it as a review. So I'll ask them, the brown is representing the crust, what ingredient was used to make crust, and then give me a fun fact that you remember from our lesson about it. And I'll just go through with each one of these. And then you've got a bracelet for your students to be able to wear and take home. Some other extension ideas, we've got a pizza garden, and I've grown this pizza garden here. I did it in a circular, just pie plate container. It needs transplanted at this point because I've got onions and tomatoes, oregano, basil, and green peppers growing. So obviously the plants need deeper soil, but it's kind of fun. You could do this in a bigger container. I just wanted to use this as an example for easy transportation. And so you just get a circular area and fill it with soil and then section it off, like cut pizza pieces and then plant your seeds in each area. Another idea you could do is maybe making personal pizzas in your classroom if you're allowed to have food. There are recipes online where you can make tortillas in a bag. So you could make those tortillas, cook them on the griddle, and then just add some pizza sauce and mozzarella cheese and have yourself a fun little pizza. All right, and then we're going to end with pigs. And the book for this one is If You Give a Pig a Pancake, which is kind of fun. But we know that pigs are not eating pancakes. So we'll go through what pigs are eating, and then we've got some fun activities for this one. So for pig breeds, just like there are different breeds of the cows, there's different breeds of pigs. And so these are some of the top ones that we're raising here in the US. And they're raised for different reasons. So like Yorkshires are sometimes called like the mother breed because they have really large litters of pigs. Durocs can grow faster with less feed. Hampshires are really good meat pigs, and land races have really long, lean bodies, and they also have pretty big litters as well. So these are some of our top breeds. Now, when we talk about pigs, there's some different terms that we use. So gilts are females that have not had piglets yet. Usually gilts are bred when they're around 8 months old. And then once they have piglets, then they are considered a sow. Sows are the mothers. And the piglets are the babies. Boars are the males that are used for breeding, and then barrows are the males that have been castrated and are not used for breeding. So some of the reasons that we do that is to prevent unwanted pregnancies, and also it helps make them less aggressive as well. So those are the farmer terms when we're talking about pigs that you might hear. So in Illinois, we're actually the fourth largest producer of pigs in the nation. Our neighbor Iowa is number one. In Illinois, we have around 2,000 pig farms, and kind of a fun fact for you, the USDA considers anyone who raises one hog to be a hog farmer, which seems kind of crazy. So just one makes a hog farmer. Each year, we produce around 2 billion pounds of pork. So lots of pork. But we're not just raising our pigs for just meat. So some of the meats that we get from our pigs are examples like ham and bacon, pulled pork, pork chops, ribs, pepperoni, and sausage. But then we have a lot of byproducts that come from pigs as well. So we're using most of the animal. So their skin, their bones, their organs, all kinds of different things. So an example is like bone is sometimes used in bone china, gelatin, and it can be used in jello. Their hair can be used in paintbrush bristles, and then we can also use them in medical ways as well. Like insulin used to be made with beef cows and pigs insulin. Now it's mostly synthetic, but you still can do it that way. Heart valves have been transplanted from pigs into people. So just some interesting uses. So we use animals and livestock for a lot of other things besides just for meat. So this is what you would commonly see if you're driving through our state where pigs are housed. So this pig barn or pig shed, you can see we've got big fans along the side to help bring air in and keep it cool and get that air moving. We've got our bins over to the side that have our pig feed in them. And so there's different types of pig barns, and we'll kind of go through those so you can see the different ones. So here's our life cycle again. We kind of said, when they're born and how they're grown and they reach 280 pounds and they're shipped off to market. So if you're on a farm that's raising from farrowing or birth all the way through market, this is where our pigs would start. So this is called a farrowing barn. So this is where our sows come when they're about ready to give birth. You can see they have their own individual pins and with tracking sheets. So this helps the farmer be able to access the pigs and help them if they're having trouble giving birth. It helps the pigs prevent the mothers from rolling on their piglets when they're born. So when piglets are born, they're usually born between 2 and 3 pounds. An average litter size is around 8 pigs. So they'll stay in this farrowing barn for about 3 to 4 weeks. You can see we've got a heat lamp to help keep them warm. And farmers will do something called tail docking. So you see how those pigs have really long curly tails. In their early part of when they're born, the farmers will clip those tails and put disinfectant on that. But pigs like to chew, and so they'll dock those tails, cut them shorter so that they don't chew on them and get infected and get sick and things like that. Sometimes they'll clip their eye teeth so they don't have such sharp teeth. Some farmers do that. They'll also maybe castrate some of the males if they don't want all of them to be able to be breeding. And then maybe give them vaccinations and things like that to help keep them healthy. So this is all kind of happening within that first month of life with our piglets. Once they're bigger, they're going to get moved to the nursery. So this is where they're around 12 to 15 pounds. We usually separate them out by weight. So if you have pigs that are smaller, we'll put all of those together in a pen so that they don't have to compete for food with the bigger pigs. So they're going to be in this nursery where they're going to grow until they get bigger, around 50 or 60 pounds. And then they're going to be moved to their finishing shed. As you can see, the pigs have moved are able to just move around. They've got access to food and water. And you've probably seen that in all of these pictures. The floors have slats in them. So this is so that the manure and the waste and the urine can go down into a big pit where then it can be sucked out and transported away. So this is an example of a farrow to finish farm. Some farms only focus on breeding and birth, and some farms just focus on finishing. It just kind of depends on what the farmers want to do and what their farm is set up for. So for pig care, a lot of farmers, don't really want a lot of people coming on their farm. It's not that they don't want visitors. It's just it can be dangerous if people are tracking in germs or bacteria or viruses that can make the pigs sick. So it's really important if you want to visit a pig farm or any farm in general to talk with the farmer and see if they even want to allow it, just because we don't want to be tracking in things that can make the animal sick. So some farmers will wear protective clothing like the farmer in the picture here. Or booty covers over their shoes so that we're not tracking anything from off the farm onto the farm. Farmers also work really closely with veterinarians for coming up with specialized diets for their pigs, or if a pig is sick and needs treatment, they will treat it just like if we're sick or if our pets are sick, we get treated with medicine as well. They're not going to sell those pigs to market while the pig is on medicine. You don't have to worry about there being medicine in your meat. They pull those pigs aside and wait until that full waiting period is over before they can be introduced back into the herd and sold off. Kind of a fun fact, if you see those labels that say no added hormones on your pork products, there are actually no hormones in pork because it's illegal to use hormones when you're raising pigs. So if you see that label, you're just paying for a label. So you are safe to get the pork that doesn't have the no hormones label. So what are pigs eating? Pigs are eating ground up field corn, soybean meal, and a mix of vitamins and minerals. That's generally what we're feeding our pigs. This is kind of a fun connection back to our book. If you give a pig a pancake, this is really what our pigs are eating. And then we look at our waste management. So like I said, we're collecting all of that waste under the buildings, and then farmers will use a manure spreader and spread it over the top of their fields, or maybe inject it into the soil, and it's a really good fertilizer. On some really big farms, if they have too much waste and not enough land to put it on, some of them will have what's called a methane digester or an anaerobic digester, where that waste is converted using bacteria into a gas and a solid, and they can use that gas as fuel or electricity for the farm. They can use the solid part as animal bedding or fertilizers or soil amendments, things like that. So using that waste in a way that's positive, it's really awesome. And then just some fun facts to end our pigs here. Pigs can run a 7-minute mile. They're pretty fast. Pigs can squeal up to 115 decibels, and pigs can get sunburned. So their skin is actually really similar to ours. So some of the reasons they roll in the mud is to keep cool, because pigs don't sweat, but also it's a good way to help keep them from getting sunburned. So kind of fun. All right, so your provided project, I've given you the resources to make your paper bag pig puppet here. So this is just cutting and gluing. I did give you the ear tags. I think the ear tags are fun. You can name your pig or give your pig a number so that everyone can know which pig is theirs. And then a couple of extension ideas, making a pig feed sack. So I used some multigrain Cheerios, peanuts, raisins, M&Ms, and butterscotch chips. And each one of these things is going to represent something that's in the animal feed. So we've got like carbohydrates and fat and protein. So each one of these things is representative of what would be in pig feed. And then you can just make a fun little snack bag for your students. Obviously, you can switch out whatever you need. If you have students that have certain allergies and can't have certain things, you can switch it up to kind of do whatever you want. So that's kind of a fun one to do. And then kind of a STEM activity would be to make a pig barn. So this is made just using envelopes. So you can see I've done 3 envelopes. One of them's cut in half on the side, and they're just taped together to make this 3D rectangle. We've cut a hole in the middle of the front one to represent the windows that are on the pig barns, and then the flap that goes over it. And then you just take a piece of paper and fold it in half, hot dog style. I'll let you see this here, maybe. And so then you've got your pig barn, and you can make this as long as an activity as you want. You could put in some fencing. You can use more paper, toilet paper tubes to make feed troughs and bins and all kinds of different things. So you can make this as big of a project as you wanted to. So that's kind of what we covered at the workshop. Some other opportunities for you. We do have our $250 teacher grants. They're due in November. They are on our website, dcfb.org. You can use them to, if you like some of these activities, these extra ones, and you want to fund them, or if you want books for your classroom, all kinds of things. Anything up to $250. And then if you win, we'll send a check in like late December, early January, and then you have the spring to do your project. And then we just ask that you send a report and pictures at the end of the school year. Some cool things, we have virtual field trips. If you liked some of those videos that I showed you, we do have long virtual field trips that have a lot of good information. And we do have some short ones like what I showed you in this video. So those are all on our website, dcfb.org, or our YouTube channel. We're just DuPage County Farm Bureau. If you liked our workshop and you want to come to our Teacher Institute Day, that's usually the end of February, early March. We usually only have 35 spots available, so sign up early if you want to join us for that. And then if you needed those websites, they are right here. dcfb.org is us at the DuPage County Farm Bureau. agintheclassroom.org is our Illinois Ag in the Classroom program. And then agclassroom.org is the National Ag in the Classroom site. All of the activities that you saw today, they are on these websites. We get all of our resources from here. There's lots of good information. If you have questions or you want to contact me, feel free to reach out. I hope you guys had fun at the workshop. If you're rewatching this, if you missed the workshop and are just watching this for the first time, feel free to email me if you have any questions, and have a good rest of your summer.